It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
With Ease US, make studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Hi, I'm Mitch, the co-founder of Cake, a sexual health and wellness company designed for today and designed for you. Yes, you. The entire product line can be found at hellocake.com, and it's also available in every Walmart near you.
Send money abroad in just a few steps with Remitly. Sign up with your email, enter an amount, choose how your loved ones receive the money, enter your recipient's information, select a payment method, hit send, and relax. Download the Remitly app today.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated. Each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Whether it's sports, theater, or concert, for the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator. The You Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ULIKE.com. You Like.
Oh, let me move this down a little. I just switched things around. The Pete Sousa Show. What's going on? We are running from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Pretty soon after this show, I will be running to a plane, headed back to Dallas today, and then Waco tomorrow morning. Cannot wait to be back in the studio with Scotty Swingler. A lot to talk about today, including breaking news that we're going to hit in one moment in the NBA, and some that hits very close to home and could really affect one of the members of the Pete Sousa Show family directly. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. Also going to just do a little Big 12 basketball. Won't take forever, but I do want to let you guys know what I saw last night with Iowa State. It's an issue for the rest of the Big 12 because I just had a front row seat to them absolutely dismantling a Mississippi State team that had made it to 3 straight NCAA tournaments. So it's It's an interesting situation in the Big 12. Iowa State is awesome. K Fish, what up, man? Happy birthday, brother. Let's go. Kevin Fisher having a birthday. Kevin, you better be watching the Amazon Allen Iverson documentary. Just a quick note for you. Kevin Fisher preceded myself in the Philadelphia 76ers public relations department. Last night, I got a chance to call the game for ESPN with Tim Welsh, former Providence coach. And I'll share some of my thoughts on that. Also, want to talk a little bit about Troy Aikman and Monday Night Football, why he's just the greatest and why I love him so much. And finally, we're going to talk at the top of next hour to Bill Riley, the voice of the Utah Utes, and a huge game for Baylor this weekend, a huge game for Dave Aranda, I'll say, but a bigger game for Utah as they try to remain alive in the college football playoff, as they very much do have a heartbeat. And you can't say they control their own destiny, but if they continue to win, they are going to be in a pretty good position. Also, you see the scroll at the bottom of the screen. It is Veterans Day. This morning, I woke up and was kind of like, you're scrambled. I was up late all night. I got a message from Chris Visser, our executive producer from Orlando, Florida, talking about Veterans Day, how important it was. And I was like, gosh, that's right. This is probably one of the most important days of the year, really, when you think about being an American and why it's so awesome to be an American. Certainly one of them is so many people paying that ultimate sacrifice or laying down their life or just being a part of service. And the Wounded Warriors Project is a great way to get involved. And it was super easy. This morning, I just clicked on it, donated a small amount of money. And if I can do it, you can do it. So at the bottom of the screen, literally, we got the scroll rolling. But just go to the Wounded Warriors website, obviously completely vetted. I have no connection with them as far as this show is concerned, besides the fact that those guys are amazing. And that's one sect of the country we can't forget as we try to remember everyone. So, Veterans Day cannot Scotty, throw up the picture of Normandy real quick. So this is interesting, right? When you look at that, this is Omaha Beach. And think about the memories there. And I wanted to just quickly go over a couple things with you about just how important this is. And the kind of day, think about this, right? This is 1944. In June. And I've never been there. My parents have been there. I've talked to a lot of people who've been there. It's almost an emotional place to go visit, right? There are still actually a few of those young men at the time who stormed Normandy. They're still 81 years later. Some of them are still with us today. And that's the beach, man. That's the beach from Saving Private Ryan. That's the beach from storming the beaches of Normandy. It's not, and that's where Private Ryan comes from. But the courage of those young men, right? 17, 18, 19 years old. And at that time, I know sometimes we're divided, but that's when the fight for freedom was really on. And, just thinking about all of them today, men and women. And, if you can, go to the Wounded Warriors Project. Super easy. Just make a small donation, all right? Best ticket in town, baby, America. So Nico Harrison has a ticket out of town. This is legitimately happening. As far as we're concerned, and all the reports, at 10:15 a.m. Central Time, as I sit here in South Dakota, and many of our friends are somewhere in the North Texas area. Hopefully some of them listening right now, and they're sitting close to a huge moment in Dallas and North Texas DFW sports, NBA, really. Nico Harrison getting fired today. We'll do a little press release here, or just a little reading. So this is official now, right? Tim McMahon, Shams Charania. This article is official, but I'm not quite sure as to if it's been done or not at this point in time. Here's how it reads. Dallas Mavericks general manager Nico Harrison is expected to be fired Tuesday morning during a 10 a.m. meeting scheduled with team governor Patrick Dumont, sources told ESPN. Assistant general managers Michael Finley and Matt Riccardi are being promoted to lead the Mavs basketball operations department on an interim basis. Harrison has been under fire from the Mavericks and their fans since stunningly trading away Luka Doncic to the Lakers on February 2nd, months removed from the then 25-year-old five-time first-team All-NBA selection, leading the franchise to an NBA Finals appearance. The trade, in which Dallas received Anthony Davis and Max Christie and a 2029 first-round pick in return, prompted fans to protest outside American Airlines Arena. The angst never dissipated, as Fire Nico chants have frequently been heard since the team's home games starting the season, including Monday night's loss to the Bucks. So Patrick Dumont was sitting courtside in that loss to the Bucks. The Mavs were 3-8, and I think we can now look back. It feels like a fresh start. It's been 284 days, and there are a lot of people, when you talk about sports in the DFW area and in Texas, a lot of people point to this trade as a turning point for really the morale of the Mavericks fan base. And it was a head scratcher for NBA fans all around the country. And it's funny, right? We talked to Steve Hartman from Los Angeles about a month ago. And Steve has been covering the NBA for 20, 30 years, maybe more than that, right? After working PR for the Raiders. A big voice in LA, a big voice around the country, Fox Sports radio guy currently. And he's like convinced that there was more to meets the eye with this trade as to like, was the NBA involved? Was, Luka aware that he was doing something he shouldn't have done, but was feeling pressure from the powers that be on high? I don't know that we'll ever know. I think it's a stretch to say that's true. But when a guy like Hartman is saying that, and there's a lot of other people I respect that I hear say that kind of offline, like the conversations I'm privy to, like traveling around, calling games. I can tell you yesterday, I was sitting with Tim Welsh, the analyst that I work with, and one of the head coaches from Mississippi State and Iowa State. And it's not like, I'm just not going to say who it was. It's not a huge deal. But they were just talking about the product in the NBA and just how it is lacking big time and how it's tough to watch. And like, I completely co-sign on that. The only time I watch the NBA is during the playoffs. And I really believe I'm such an idiot that like the ESPN hype train kind of collects me on the way with the rest of the bozos. That's you guys. And is like, hey, this is a big deal now. And then, so it's like, okay, we got nothing else going. Let's talk about LeBron. And, Stephen A. Smith is like a carnival barker and he gets us all involved. And it's all good, right? It's fun. It brings us all to the table. And I think that communal part of sports is one of the many things that makes it special. Moving on from this trade feels like it feels like a good breakup, right? When you have a breakup and you did the right thing. I mean, I don't know what the Mavs were waiting for, right? Like this is a breakup when like this is a breakup where, I've been there, okay? More than once, where your friends just stop hanging out with you because you're dating a toxic person and they're worried about you and your well-being. So they're like, dude, no mas, dude. Like, you're going to live your life and you're an adult, but like, this is not something that we would like to be party to. Basically, my friends chanting from the stands, fire said woman's name. Like that's what happened with the Mavs. And they finally got Nico out of there. And here's the good news, too. It was the perfect – I mean, look, you could have said the perfect time to fire Nico Harrison would have been 285 days ago before the trade happened. But truthfully, it's the perfect time to make this decision. The Mavs were 3-8. They're a middling team in the Western Conference where you got to be really good if you're going to make a push. And they have the horses to be way better than 3-8. And so it's not like let's fire Nico and get someone in that can actually put together a collection of talent that can win an NBA championship. Some might say that collection is in position right now. There are a lot of people who are very high on the Mavericks and the pieces they have there. Nico Harrison is not the coach of the team, but I will remember this move, and this is why Nico Harrison is such a bonehead. I mean, really, or just to, and I'll relate it back to sobriety, okay? Like when you get sober, when you first get sober, you're very much like, especially me, like it took me a while to get it, right? But when I finally got it, it's because I wanted it so bad. I had that gift of desperation where I would do what anybody told me to do that was sober and kind of had what I wanted, right? I saw people around me that were sober, that were enjoying life and like having, belly laughing and going out with women and, living their life the way that I thought I was supposed to live mine with alcohol. Because the only way I could do stuff like that was if I was drinking, right? So, fast forward, you want to get sober, you see these people who are doing all the things that you drank to do. It's like, man, what's going on with those guys? What do they have? So you really start to run stuff by people like that when you make decisions in your life, right? Like Nico Harrison, right? Like, he's working at Nike. He's locked in with Kobe. He's boys with Pelinka. He ascends up the ranks as a personnel guy in the NBA. And at some point, I got to believe that Nico was like, you know what? Like, because you can bet he had mentors that he would run stuff by, right? On his way up the chain, right? When you have a situation like the Lakers had with Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka, right? As far as we know, like a cloistered situation, right? Where nobody else really at all was involved until the 11th hour when the trigger had to be pulled on this trade. It goes back to life. Like when I'm keeping secrets, the outcome ain't going to be good. It's just not. When I am keeping secrets, the outcome is going to be bad as far as what I produce after I keep those secrets or start keeping them, right? Because I'm going to start just literally, we call it self-will run riot. Like, and so it's like in sobriety, it'll be like, you know what? I think I'm going to move in with my girlfriend. I've been sober for 3 years. I've got this figured out, but I'm not going to ask anybody. Like I'm going to move in with somebody who I probably shouldn't move in. And I'll call them after I finish up the move, and I'll call my sponsor, Scott, and I'll be like, hey, Scott, like I just moved in. I'm over here with Celine. He'd be like, oh, okay, what? Dude, I told you not to do that. Like that's what you get, okay? And your results are tied to your ego in a lot of ways. And this was an egotistical move by Nico Harrison and his inability to bring in outside sources and to run a decision like this, which turned out to be catastrophic for his career, his legacy. I mean, dude, it sucks and it's sports and we have fun, but this is going to be the first or second line in this guy's bio. Certainly his obituary. I'm sorry, it is, and that sucks for him. I believe in second chances and stuff, and it's not like the guy's in prison. He just made a bonehead sports move, so he's in sports prison right now. But his inability to look at that situation and say, you know what, I probably should ask a few more people what they think about this. But like Pelinka's at the table, like, no, don't call anybody. If you call one person, like, we can't do it. Like, and so Pelinka's just like working him over, and not only did he fail from a basketball perspective, but this game is about entertaining and giving your fans a product they could be proud to support, right? He failed the basketball test. I mean, obviously, but he failed the people test worse than any general manager I have ever seen in my entire life, right? And that goes back to not bringing anyone else in on your decision-making, right? Like to misevaluate a situation of this magnitude is an unforgivable mistake. And finally, he's suffering his consequences today. And maybe he'll be able to live free after this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll take advantage of it. Maybe we'll see him in a Super Bowl commercial. Like, dude, honestly, that's the move. I swear. Like a Pepsi commercial, right? Where Nico trades a Pepsi Zero for a Coke Zero. And, he gets, berated for making such a terrible trade. He'd be like, oh, can't believe I did it again. Like that would be the move for him, really, like PR wise. Because like, that's the only way out of this is like right through it. If you care at all about your public persona, he may not. But to misevaluate and to not understand that these fans were going to come for you, dude, because you ripped out their heart and soul. We're talking about people who, and it's funny because the more I've gotten entrenched with like Christy's world, you know, and people like her family, they are nutty Mavs fans, nutty, dude. Rangers too. Like I'm talking Rangers, like they don't miss a pitch all year long. And a lot of them, much like Scotty, who we're going to bring on here in a second, a lot of them were so distraught after this trade. And it really sort of hit me like, wow, they ripped out the heart and soul of this community. And it wasn't even like, you know, it wasn't like, okay, we're going to ship Dirk to the Hawks for an opportunity to get like, I don't know, Al Horford because Dirk is so old. Whatever, you get my point. Like, it wasn't like somebody's over the hill and we're just going to get rid of him. I know we maybe they can come back and sign a one-day contract. Like, it's all love, but this guy's in his 40s. No. This is a guy in his prime at 25 who just took you to an NBA Finals. And if you feel like you and your support staff can't get a 25-year-old dude who likes to drink a little bit too much and eat like shit to get in shape, that's a problem that I can't solve, right? Like, you got to figure that out, dude. That's your job. And we all know Luka's not a bad kid, a bad young man. So it's the greatest misevaluation of a situation I think I've ever seen. You know, and I would like to maybe think about that towards the end of the show. Like, what were greater miscalculations? Like just a total swing and a miss. I'm sure I'll think of some. All right, Swingler, here's a question for you. I remember the day this happened because I was in Tempe for an Arizona State basketball game. And we hadn't really started to put up a lot of clips. We were just starting to get traction on the show. It was like,
yeah.
And you quit as a Mavericks fan. You officially retired.
I announced my transfer. I entered the portal, and I transferred.
Got like tens of thousands of views.
A lot of comments on that video.
So today, 284 days later, Nico Harrison has gotten his. Okay, now let's not try to completely dance on his grave because I know you've got your dancing shoes on. But really, you're a great person to ask about this because you're a Mavs fan. You're a sicko fan.
Yeah,
you care, dude.
Yep.
I remember Tim Brando when he came on our show. He was asking about David Smoke and the 365 guys. He's like, "You know them?" I said, "Oh yeah, I know them." He goes, "They give a shit. They're good." And so I was like, "Yeah, they do." You give an SHIT.
Yeah.
So tell me where you're at today.
Conflicted, brother. Conflicted. And it's like there's part of me that says this happened 284 days too late. Like, all of America. You asked a second ago, like, is this the greatest miscalculation in the history of sports? Pete, this might be the greatest miscalculation in the history of sports, politics, war, love.
I was thinking about that kind of stuff.
Like, bro, I don't know that I've ever seen all of America united in a sports opinion. Every single person was like, what are they doing? What did he just do? And so I need a few days. It's about as honest as I can be with you about it. I am thankful he's no longer in the building. I am going to really struggle to not root for Luka Doncic to go win a title, man. And if and when he does, and I believe he will, I think he's still the best player in the NBA, by the way. Like that's part of why Nico got fired today, by the way, is not only are the Mavs 3-8, but Luka's over here. I saw after 5 games, I think he's played 7 or 8 now, but after 5 games, the only person who had started a season with a better 5 games scoring in NBA history was Wilt freaking Chamberlain. like Luka is just he's on a revenge tour, dude. And so when he inevitably wins that title, whether it's in LA in the next couple years or later in his career, I am going to always think that should have been ours. Because he said, he has said in no uncertain terms, I was going to be a Maverick forever. Like, I bought a house in Dallas. Like, I was all in for this. And there will always be part of me that hurts, man. That sucks. I can now maybe work my way back into rooting for the Mavericks now that Nico's no longer in the building. But it is a weird day, man. It is weird. It is weird. But the writing's on the wall, Pete. And when it comes to another team that I cover very closely, a phrase has been thrown around a lot this fall of like, what should happen eventually might as well happen now, or what's going to happen inevitably should just happen now. The moment he traded, the most generational, I don't want to exaggerate how good Luka is, but I don't think you can. Like, generationally talented competitor who this entire city of Dallas and DFW at large just beloved. Like, he is beloved and will always be. His career as a GM was over. It was inevitable.
There's one thing I'm thinking about because I love happy endings and I've watched way too many like comeback story movies, whatever. But man, I would not say with this move that it's totally out of the cards. And I'm not talking tomorrow, 5-6 years down the line, that Luka could return to be a Maverick. Like, what a moment that would be. I mean, if LeBron can go home after the decision, Luka can go back to Dallas. That's one thing that hit me just this morning when I saw that news.
I would cry. I would actually cry. And you're right. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
No, and the shame of it is if it did happen, he probably wouldn't be in his prime anymore, whatever. But
I would cry.
Yeah,
I would cry. And that would be a sweet ending. And but yeah, man. I said it all that kind of week after it happened. Like, I think every Dallas-Fort Worth area sports fan had it in their mind. He was going to get another title or two in Dallas. He was going to get a statue right next to Dirk's out there in Victory Plaza. And Dallas was going to be the franchise that stumbled into 2 15-plus year Mavericks from Europe who were just generationally talented. And Nico blew it all up. So, again, yeah, maybe the greatest miscalculation in the history of the world, I think.
He took a fan base whose literal moniker was Mavs fan for life. And he made them cut that deal short. Like, they ran around saying, you ran MFFL. I didn't even know that till I moved here. I'm like, what is that? Mavs fan for life.
Yep.
Okay. Hey.
I've tweeted it.
Yeah. I've got one for you. How about you're not a Mavs fan for life anymore? I can do that. Like, that's.
And the statue of Dirk Nowitzki outside the stadium says loyalty never fades away.
Well, and here's the cool thing. That Dirk will be back now more often, I would imagine.
I hope so.
Yeah, like immediately we'll start to feel, I think, even when Luka comes back this year, they've not played the Mavs yet, and they will at American Airlines. I think it'll be a more festive affair. I think Luka will be celebrated even more, but not with the darkness that was around that first time.
That was so weird, man.
It's so weird. It's all very weird. And what's next for Nico Harrison? I don't know. I hope he's fine. I don't begrudge him as a man anything. I do have to say, again, you don't want overreach from a fan base. Like, I want this guy and his family to be okay, right? But this is like by the way, you can interject at any time and say me too, just so everybody doesn't think you're gonna kill him. Okay.
I don't wish harm or injury or bad career on anybody. Humans deserve a right to live and to thrive and to be happy. But Nico Harrison forfeited his right to be a general manager in professional sports when he traded Luka Doncic.
Yeah, he forfeited a lot of rights, unfortunately, in the sports universe, and nobody can save him now. Nobody. I mean, if he ends up anywhere near the Lakers personnel department, there should be an immediate investigation, and they should put it right in front of the gambling investigation, because I'm telling you that will be complete BS, because there is something to, and I don't want, there is some, look, dude, we're in a world now where, and I'm not like a tinfoil hat guy, although I was accused of being that last night, which is a whole nother story by my significant other. But I'm not, like, I don't believe in all that crap. Like, I I really do take people at their word. I'm not looking under rocks to.
We landed on the moon. Okay,
yes,
that's it.
It's all good, dude. Kennedy was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald, or maybe. I don't, that's the one. That is the one, right? That's the one where I don't. I really. don't think so.
I don't know. I think you picked the worst example of that one personally.
I did. I 100% did. I 100% did. But you get my idea. I don't look for all this kinds of negativity everywhere. But sometimes if it's there, it's there, right? And so I'll be looking to see where Nico goes next in that vein. All right, we got to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about Big 12 football, Big 12 basketball, Troy Aikman on Monday Night Football. I really want to talk about Stephen A. Smith and Michelle Beadle. I mean, a week ago, she joined us here on the Pete Sousa Show, and it just shows, like, I don't have that. You know, I asked Michelle about Stephen A. Smith, about leaving Sirius, and she put it right there like a big matzo ball, you know, for us to hit out of the park, and I left it alone because that's not why I had her on. And also, she would not have gone to the lengths that she went on her own show, Beadle and Decker, because, you know, Decker was cheering her on, and that's a whole different vibe. It's her show, which she is so awesome, by the way. But Stephen A. Smith really came after her, and when he tries to eviscerate someone verbally, he's usually pretty successful. And last night was, I mean, it's believe him, don't believe him, like him, don't like him. That was an all-star performance he put on yesterday. You can check it out if you want to see it yourself. He talked about Kari Champion, too. I couldn't even bring myself to watch that one last night. All right, we'll step aside. We might talk about that later today. Probably not, though. We'll probably be touching that later on because we got the voice of the Utah Utes coming up at 11 a.m. Quick break. We're presented by Slovacics. Thank you, Sikora Family Ford. Thank you, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers. First National Bank of Central Texas. Crawford Austin Properties. Say it again. We'll be back.
Bubble allows you to make it real and for it to actually work. So I feel like Bubble bridges that gap and being able to give people the opportunity to make their ideas come to life really quickly too. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built and have the control over it.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
Okay, we're back in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The Pete Sousa Show rolls on. We got Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes, coming up here in a little bit. We're going to preview Baylor and Utah and also talk about the possible playoff hopes, college football playoff hopes for Utah. A lot to go over with Bill Riley. I also want to see how Alex Jensen is doing as their head coach so far with the Utes. I know they had a real close one to start the season. They escaped against Weber State. Maybe it's just Weber now, but either way they won. But it was too close for comfort. A lot of these games early in the season, what they call bye games, right? Like Baylor playing that first game of the season that Scotty and I went to. I called it. I didn't even forget they're playing. Oh, they were playing UTRGV. They were down by 9 or 14 at one point. I mean, it was like freaky. I think it was 14. And they came back and ended up winning by like 20 points. And we've seen that. Mississippi State did the same thing. They almost lost to North Alabama. They were down by 1 at halftime. They came back and won by 25 points. Iowa State, same thing with Grambling State. I bring up those teams because that's who I've been the closest to watching. But I think the lack of cohesion early in the season with all the different parts kind of coming together. And you realize, too, some of the guys that are playing now didn't get to campus for their respective schools till the summertime, whether it's an eligibility thing, right, or a clearinghouse thing. Or, one nugget I picked up yesterday, which is you're going to see this year in college basketball an influx of European stars. And you saw it last year, like the Igor Demons of the world, right? Lottery pick. Virginia Tech has a kid who apparently people like is unbelievable. A 6'9" guard. He is from, I think, Greece. I want to look him up now. I should have looked him up yesterday. Let me see real quick. The guy, like 3 people, separate people told me about this kid. And I'll give you the story behind it too. Virginia Tech. I'll just do 6'9" guard. It's like my best work right now. That's my best thinking. Nicolas Avdalis. He's from Greece, okay? The kid is amazing. Had 33 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists in their last win. Keep an eye out for that guy. So the influx of European players, there were 2 or 3 last night in the game. This one kid, Kylian Torre, on Iowa State, is a freshman from France, and Iowa State in their perimeter defense is so good that it's scary, right? Especially with this new cat I just mentioned. I mean, he is long. I called him Spider-Man last night, and it was literally just like stream of conscious. Like he's everywhere. He's stealing the ball. He's under the basket, twisting for layups in traffic. He is probably, how tall do I have him? 6'3", 205. The story behind this is Charles Lee, the head coach from Charlotte Hornets, does a lot of basketball without borders, and he was over there. And Kylian Torre was the defensive MVP of whatever league or region of that basketball without borders, whatever at the time Charles Lee was doing over there, whatever grouping or league. Torrey wins MVP, and Charles Lee calls TJ Altsberger at Iowa State and was like, dude, this guy's tailor-made for your program. You got to find a way to get him. And what's happening now, there was a guy, Sergey Masura on Mississippi State. We can call him Serge, by the way. I walked up to him before the game. I'd heard somebody say his name was Serge, but it's not in the game notes. I said, hey, I'm calling the game tonight. He was like looking down at me. I'm like, can I call you Serge? He's like, yes, Serge. I was like, how do I say your last name? He was like, Dasumara. I was like, one more time. He was like, Masura. I was like, okay. Which that's in the game notes and stuff. But anyways, Mississippi State got taken to the woodshed last night. And 26 turnovers were produced by Iowa State. Put it this way, Mississippi State made the NCAA tournament last year. Their season high was 17 turnovers all season long last year. Playing in the SEC where 14 teams made it to the NCAA tournament. Mississippi State was one of them. They turned the ball over 27 times last night, 10 more than they had all of last season. So that gives you an idea of just how good and menacing the Iowa State defense is. One thing I'll say, two more little wrinkles. The gambling thing, we've seen it more with the major league pitchers. I was messaging with Visser about it this morning, and I don't want to attack it this morning or talk about it this morning because I'm just not as prepared as I'd like to be. But I just have a personal thread to add to the fabric here. Before the game yesterday, or we're at shoot around, and this happens, man. I mean, you develop a relationship. Like, I am so grateful. I've developed a relationship. I've been calling Iowa State games for 4 years now. Okay, that was Taman Lipsey's freshman year. So now he and I guess you could say we're both seniors, right? Me at ESPN, him at Iowa State. And I've had the luxury of covering him for his whole career. And he's an amazing kid. Had a career high last night. Was talking with him. Was also talking with TJ Altsberger for a while before the game. Honestly, like, he's probably one of my favorite coaches. When I was for NBC for media days, my first day, I was like nervous, like the new kid at school. And he was one of the first guys I interviewed. And he came in and he's like shaking me up, like, come on, Pete, get jacked. Like, he's that good of a guy. And he made me feel good and kind of helped me lower my guard. I told him that yesterday. And he said, dude, he said, you're always so prepared. And I really appreciate that. I respect it. And I was like, damn, that's amazing. And I will tell you, look, I didn't do, for play-by-play guys out there, I did not do my Tony. I usually do Tony Britt's, and they kick ass. Tony Britt's like spotting charts. But for this season, I'm just going to write my own, right? Like, because it's part of my process. And I did my whole board. I'm holding it up right now if you're watching on YouTube. I did my whole board by hand. And not only was it a steam building, it was so helpful. And with football, it's different, dude. There's like 90, 80 guys on each team. I need Tony Britt and those guys to put those big charts together because it really helps me. Because I'm just dyslexic. I'm not that detail oriented. But with hoops, man, I'm like, forget it. I'm writing my stuff out. I don't care how short the turnaround is, whatever. And last night it was super helpful. That's just how I learned. And also it's like $80 a pop for those charts or something. It's not, it adds up. So, before the game, we talked to Chris Jans, who's awesome, Mississippi State's coach. And he just says to us, hey, I'd ask you to keep this to yourself before tip off until right before the game. But Jaden Epps isn't going to play. He's not available. Okay. He's their second best player. Okay. And I find this out at noon. Now, I'm not looking for a pat on the ass because, of course, I did exactly what the coach told me. But, like, that is how available this information is to schmucks like me. Like, they got to do something about this gambling stuff, man. The fact that it is legal now and people can just reach out and touch their phones and text somebody to make a bet, right? In America, on an app, like, I am, like, slowly becoming more and more. I always knew how the sausage was made. I didn't know that the gambling would affect it so much, like the legal gambling, right? I always got a kick out of seeing lines in the paper. I love getting to know, who is the favorite and why. I still do, but I see what's happening around sports, and they're trying to limit some of the prop bets. We saw what happened with the two pitchers over the weekend. I always had thought about that. I mean, I've been on betting sites, and this is probably 5 or 6 years ago. It was like an overseas site that I used to wager on. And, if you're watching a Mariners game in the middle of the week, you can bet on, is this next pitch going to be a ball? And I guess when they legalized gambling, there were sites that you could do the same thing. And I don't know, man. I think that is another, not even in the Nico Harrison miscalculation of a situation, universe, as far as how badly you can miscalculate it. But I think it was a pretty bad miscalculation as to how this would affect the players and the people close to these events and these games. So that's something to think about as we go forward. Like, I would not be shocked. I know there's a money train, but in 5 years, I wouldn't be blown away if we were completely out of that. And it was like, hey, we tried it. It was a bad idea. It was like, remember when new Coca-Cola? It was like, okay, we're good. Let's bring back Coca-Cola Classic, right? So we're going to find out. That's what I love about all this stuff. We find out who wins the games because they play them, and we're going to find out how this gets handled as time marches on. And I trust the people who are involved to get it done. But the whole legal gambling could have been a really bad idea. And everywhere I go, I'm reminded of it, especially somebody who works in sports. I'm like, man, this is right there. And eventually, too, the number one thing is it's totally fool's gold. You are never going to get away with it. You aren't. You are not going to get away with it. And that may be one of the big things, I guess, that maybe could be on the side of these leagues and a lot of these gambling outfits who sponsor us, dude, right? Like, we're sponsored by FanDuel, sponsored by DraftKings, all that stuff, or Underdog. But, something's going to happen, I think, and something major, which if we didn't have a real come to Jesus after the Chauncey Billups perp walk, all that says to me is we're going to need more. We're going to have to fall deeper and harder on our heads before this thing gets put in the right direction. You see at the bottom of your screen there, an opportunity to support wounded warriors on this Veterans Day. A very important day and a special day. I donated this morning. If I did it, you can do it, okay? You can make whatever kind of donation you want. I'm not saying I donated $5. I'm not saying I donated $1,000, but I donated some money, all right? So, and if all you have is $5, go ahead, man, or woman, right? One more thing before we get to Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes, at 11 o'clock. So I came home last night, watched Monday Night Football. I couldn't believe it was scoreless. By the time I got home, I guess it was 3-0. And Nick Sirianni, dude, he really kind of he would at the end of the game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to go back and watch it. But the time is working out where Nick Sirianni has a chance to just melt the clock and really give the Green Bay Packers the ball back with almost no time left, deep in their own territory. All he has to do is punt, pooch punt, whatever. But he goes for it on a 4th down, and the Eagles don't get it, right? So now the Cowboys have the ball, or not the Cowboys, the Packers have the ball. All they got to do is go 20 yards to get their kicker in range. And nowadays, I'm like, that's going to be enough. But apparently this guy, their kicker, was having hamstring issues, and the wind was kicking. It was actually nice to see gravity and elements and mortality play out in a goddamn field goal kicking situation, because sooner or later somebody's going to make one from the goddamn moon. Okay. So it was nice to see hey, that's all right. Good. Because the guy missed a 64-yarder to try to send the game to overtime. But Aikman was out of his mind that Sirianni went for it on 4th down. And when he gets pissed, it is the greatest. It's just the greatest. And he's like a big brother or parent to all of us. I get a little awkward. I'm like, oh man, Troy's pissed, because he's like, I don't know. I don't know what Nick Sirianni's thinking. You can't do that, Joe. You got a chance to pin him deep. And then Joe Buck knows all the levers to pull with Aikman, to get him going. And then the next sequence, it looked like Matt LaFleur was going to do something that Aikman didn't agree with. And I really do feel like we're coming to a point where Troy might be like, Sirianni, I disagree with him. I disagree with LaFleur. I'm just going to need a minute, Joe. I don't know. Like, I'm really, he's so passionate and so awesome. And the two of them together are amazing. So long live Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. And for me, who calls games and understands like that chemistry test and how important that is with broadcasters between one another, they have what they have is lightning in a bottle. Because even now, I'm in the middle of the Madden and Summerall book. I mean, and I knew this before, but John Madden and Pat Summerall, they were not best friends. Like, I'm pretty sure Troy Aikman and Joe Buck like are kind of or are kind of close. So they got lightning in a bottle. That's magic watching those dudes every night or every Monday, even if the game stinks. And if I have time, I'd love to check it out. All right, quick break. Coming back with the voice of the Utes. We're talking Utah football. A college football playoff potential squad. Also previewing their game against Baylor. And let's check in with Bill Riley. Also talk to him a little bit about what's going on with Alex Jensen and the Hoops team. Fresh slate. Little tough sledding early on in the season. They escaped their first one, but I want to check in and see how they're doing now. The Pete Sousa Show, as always, presented by Slovakics. Short break. We come back with Bill Riley.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning. So we love Extraco.
The Pete Sousa Show returns. We are in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Let's send you out to Salt Lake City, where we've got Bill Riley standing by. Bill, man, dude, nice to talk to you. You do a hell of a job.
Thanks, Pete. I appreciate it. Are you at the Pentagon tonight doing basketball?
I was there last night. Yeah, and so I'm leaving here in a little bit. Have you been?
Yeah, we were here. We were there last year for a game with Iowa, which was supposed to be a neutral site game, but it was anything but a neutral site game because it's right on the Iowa border. So, yeah, but it was great. I'd never been to Sioux Falls before. So, yeah, it was a great game last year.
Yeah, me neither. And you know what? Exactly what you said. Going into the arena, it's an old school gym with like that Hoosiers look, but everything's brand new, which is really cool. And then, but much like the Mississippi State fans last night, 4-hour drive from Ames. So it's Iowa State and Mississippi State. And I swear, if there were 3,400 people in the gym, 3,200 of them were Iowa State fans, and you could feel it. Yeah,
it's a good setup. It's like I said, it's not a neutral site, but it's cool, and the people there love it. And that's a long way to go for Mississippi State, though.
Yeah, it is. And they got taken to the woodshed, and that's something keep your eye out for Iowa State. I mean, Mississippi State was without this kid Epps, probably one of their best players next to Joshua Hubbard, but Iowa State is good, man. I mean, they are.
We'll see Iowa State in conference, but we have Utah's got Mississippi State coming to the Delta Center downtown. We went down and played them in a pseudo-neutral site game right outside of Memphis last year. So they're doing a return game this year. So coming up in the second week of December, the Bulldogs come to Salt Lake City.
It is cool to see these really good non-con like one-off games and not always part of those like NTA tournaments. I was super excited to turn into a blowout last night, but just the idea that those two Power Four conferences or teams were matching up that early in the season was a lot of fun.
No, I love them too. And I especially when you're getting ready for Big 12 play, you don't have to really help your RPI and things like that, strength of schedule, when you play in the Big 12, but you only want to play so many lower Division I teams or 1AA teams or Division II teams. It's nice to mix in one of those, because Utah and Mississippi State aren't going to play all that often. So if you could do a home and home or a neutral in back-to-back years, it's kind of fun.
It's a lot of fun. All right, let me get you into football right now, because I do want to go back to chat a little bit about Utah basketball. But the football team right now this is what I felt they were going to look like before the season. And I'm wrong on a lot of stuff, but I believe in Kyle Whittingham. I just believe in the strength of that program. They've always been a strong outfit to me, and I figured it wouldn't change in the Big 12. Now, a college football playoff invitation is a reality here. What is the vibe around the team? Is it, hey, let's get to Arlington and see how that shakes out? Is that the number one goal? Because I would imagine postseason hopes are certainly in the mix there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the first and foremost is try to get to Arlington and play in that Big 12 championship game. And they've got a couple of good paths to that. Despite the two losses to Texas Tech and BYU, they're still squarely in the mix. But Pete, if anything that, you could talk about, who's going to lose, you've got to win all three games. Utah has no margin for error. A 3-loss team is not going to get to the Big 12 championship game. So they've got to beat Baylor this weekend. They've got to beat Kansas State at home next weekend and finish up with a win at Kansas. Those are the three musts that have to happen for Utah. But yeah, I think, is there a path to that? Absolutely. There's a path to Dallas. Is there a path to the college football playoff? Yeah, that's a little bit more tricky, because you're either going to have to win the Big 12 championship or win out and hope for a lot of chaos in front of you. But based on where the committee put them in the first set of rankings last week at number 13, that doesn't take a lot of math and thinking to say, can they get in the top 12? Can they get in the top 10? You win out and a little bit of chaos happens in front of you. And frankly, last weekend, some chaos happened in front of them. I'm going to be really curious to see where they are this week. I wouldn't be surprised if they stayed at 13 for another week since they were on a bye, but maybe they bump up to 12. We'll see. So everything's still on the table for Kyle Whittingham's team. But the number one thing is there's no margin for error. You got to beat Baylor. You got to beat K-State. You got to beat Kansas.
What's it like out there for, obviously, you don't have to, or you don't have to be living like, it's obvious BYU and Utah, they go all the way back. I mean, that is a fierce rivalry, holy war, whatever you want to call it. The fact that these two schools are playing in the same conference and now duking it out for both of them in the college football playoff, what is that like out there? Like, what does that do to the rivalry and both fan bases?
Well, the rivalry was always a conference rivalry for years until Utah got the invite to the Pac-12 and BYU didn't get invited. They got left out of the party and then kind of became independent for some reason for about 13 years. So the rivalry was still great, but it didn't hold quite the same that it did for all those other years when they played in the WAC and in the Mountain West. Well, now you've got it back on the table again. So the rivalry it's always the best Saturday of the year in the state. Whether the game's in Provo or here in Salt Lake City, it's the best Saturday in the state because it's such a great rivalry. And for those that have covered it from around college football, they get a feel for it. You've got the religious component to it. You've got separation of 40 miles between the campuses. You've got private school, public school, and then you just look at the coaching staffs. The head coach at Utah was an All-American linebacker at BYU and a captain years ago. Half of the Utah staff coached or played at BYU. Half of the BYU staff coached or played at Utah. So it's a crazy rivalry. It divides families. It divides businesses. And now they're back in the same conference again, and they're both really good. BYU got the upper hand a couple of weeks ago down in Provo in a game where they didn't make any mistakes, and Utah kind of beat themselves. They come out with a W. But now BYU's schedule to finish the season is difficult. We saw last week in Lubbock, and they've got some other landmine games possibly coming up where Utah has kind of weeded through that already, and now they've just got to get to the finish.
Well, and and as busy as you are, I know you don't have a ton of time to watch other games, but you mentioned, the BYU, the game out in Lubbock last week, and Utah was on a bye, so maybe you did watch.
I did.
You experienced it firsthand, right? You weren't in Lubbock, but you guys played them at home earlier this year. You saw that defense up close. What about Texas Tech makes them so unique and has them almost unstoppable right now?
Well, I think it's the defense. A lot of people could talk about the offense, and we've always talked about Texas Tech's offense with the spread and the Red Raiders, whether it's Kingsbury or Graham Harrell, Mike Leach back in the day. Now it's Baron Morton. It's a good offense. Frankly, I don't know, it's just me. I think that they don't lean on the run game enough. I think their run game is terrific with Dickey and Williams, that 1-2 punch, but it's really the defense and those guys up front. The defensive line is terrific, even with the injury to the guy whose name I'm forgetting right now. They plugged in A.J. Holmes. They were just fine. But it's Jacob Rodriguez and those safeties that are really, really good as well that make that defense go. It's not very often that Utah doesn't dominate at the line of scrimmage, but they had trouble in that game here. It's a good offense that Texas Tech has. It's a little uneven at times because they'll put up points and they'll go several drives without doing much. But that defense has been so constant and so steady. And Utah was in that game here. That was a game that was a one-possession game into the early fourth quarter. But Devin Dampier wasn't healthy in the second half, and that defense it was kind of like a boa constrictor. They just tightened and tightened and tightened. And I really think that that's why they're so good. And you saw that Saturday. That BYU offense wasn't explosive all year long, but they were really good. And Bachmeier made plays, and they ran the football. And Texas Tech just didn't let them do it. So I think Tech's on a level of their own right now. And then it's a battle between Utah, BYU, Cincinnati, ASU to kind of figure out who that number 2 team is in the league right now.
When you look at Utah, something that jumps out for me, you're there on the ground floor. I'm at 30,000 feet, but that offensive line is just undeniable. A guy like Spencer Fano, can you talk to me a little bit about your experience watching that offensive line grow and just how key of an element that is in Utah's success this year?
Well, they're a run-based team. They have a running quarterback who can throw pretty well, but they want to run the football, and they're the best running football team in the Big 12, one of the best in the country. That offensive line's been together for a couple of years, Pete. Yeah, you've got Lomu on one end who's going to be an NFL first-round pick, and Fano on the other end who's going to be a first-round pick. But the 3 guys in the middle have a ton of starts. And when you have continuity on the offensive line mixed with talent, and they're a very talented group, that's a hard combination to beat. And that's really what Kyle Whittingham likes to do. He likes to play downhill, run the football, physical football. And you've seen the last 2 weeks, they absolutely grinded Cincinnati and Colorado into the ground, physicality up front. But kind of like Texas Tech, the Utah defense is really good. They're really good. The back end especially, the front's always good. You've got the linebackers, the front 7, but that back end, they play a ton of press man. They did it against Cincinnati. I thought Cincinnati coming in was really good with Sorsby, those receivers, the running backs. They played press man, and Brendan Sorsby did not have a great day. He was 11 of 33 with a pick and 1 touchdown. Utah did a really nice job on him. And so I think that as good as that offensive line is, and it's really good, and they want to run the football, Utah's defense has been really good this year. And even in the games they lost, they didn't give up a lot to BYU. They didn't really give up a lot until the fourth quarter to Texas Tech because they'd been on the field a bunch. So that Utah defense is awfully good as well.
And it seems like you're describing to me a team that is tailor-made for the postseason. We play good D, we control the ball, we knock you off the line of scrimmage. But if we're talking about Utah in the college football playoff here in a month or so, what is the biggest reason why, in your opinion?
that they're there, it's because of what we just talked about, their ability to be physical and win at the lines of scrimmage offensively and defensively. Again, they've set themselves behind the ball just a little bit just because of the 2 losses. So, but if they were to get into the college football playoff as a 8, 9, 10 seed, whatever that is, they would be a tough matchup for somebody because their brand of football travels. It does. They don't rely on great weather to win football games. They're going to run the football, try to run the football, be physical. They don't throw the ball down the field a ton. I think fans would probably like to see them do that a little bit more, but they can if they have to. It's an intermediate passing game mixed in with a just grind you out, run the football type game, and play really good defense.
Well, you've called a lot of games for Utah. You'll be in Waco this coming weekend for Utah and Baylor. This is a huge game for Utah. It's also a really big game for Baylor when you consider just what's going on around the program. Dave Aranda, hot seat, however you want to term it. What's the mindset for Utah coming into Waco for a game like this against a team that Baylor, look, if I'm in Utah shoes, I'm like, this team's dangerous. This was a team that was projected at the top of the league. They have an awesome quarterback. They have a guy who can put it together defensively at times in Dave Aranda, and they've got the athletes to make it a game for sure. What's the message this week getting ready for Baylor?
Well, Baylor reminds me on paper a little bit of Cincinnati, but they've played a tougher schedule. I mean, the Bearcats' schedule until the last couple of weeks hadn't been real good. Baylor is a lot the same. Really good quarterback who can spin it and throw it. Weapons on the outside. A running back in Washington who can really run it. And if you look at Baylor's defensive numbers, Pete, they're not great, but they've got guys on every level that can make plays. Cincinnati was the same way. Their overall defensive numbers weren't great, but they had guys on the different levels that could make plays. This is a home game for Baylor as well. Yeah, they're not going to go to the Big 12 championship game, but they can play spoiler. They can ruin Utah's season and ruin Utah's chances with a win on Saturday. So I don't think Kyle Whittingham and the guys have anything on their minds but going into Waco and beating Baylor. This will be the 3rd straight year they played. They played 2 years ago as a non-conference game. They technically played last year as well as a non-conference game because it was on the schedule before. So this is really the first official Big 12 game between these two teams. But they've been rock fights in both those games. 2 years ago, Cam Rising didn't play. Last year, Cam Rising, it kind of ended Cam Rising's career in some ways. That was the game that he got pushed into the Gatorade things, broke his hand, and he was never the same again. So Utah's actually going to go into this situation this weekend, set at quarterback. They know who it's going to be. They know who they will have. But they also know they're going to face a Baylor team that could be really dangerous in Waco this weekend.
Well, those games you mentioned, Baylor – they were in that first one 2 years ago, just this sequence of games we're talking about. But last year, dismantled. And so there's got to be a confidence, I would imagine, for Utah coming into this game. Because that was the game in September of 2023. That was the beginning of the fall for Baylor. I mean, after that loss, there was a couple plays down the stretch where Baylor could have tied it or maybe won, I forget. But, that loss triggered just a rough season for Baylor. And for Utah, there were the injuries, right?
Yeah, for the last 2 years, it's been injuries for Utah, namely at the quarterback position, but in some other places. And the interesting part of the Baylor game last year was they still had that dual threat kid from, I think, Toledo.
Yeah.
They had settled on. It was really after that game, I think, that they went full time to Sawyer Robertson, which is amazing to me when you look at the numbers that kid's put up last year and then this year, that it took them that long to settle on Sawyer Robertson. So Utah really hasn't seen Robertson as the guy. They saw him in and out of some games, but they haven't seen him settled in as the guy. So it'll be a challenge there because, as you said, he can really throw it and spin it. So it's the number one pass defense in the Big 12 against the number one pass offense in the Big 12 on Saturday. So that's going to be fun to watch.
And, God bless DeQuan Finn, but he's a great example of, you want to give props to a fan base. You guys in Utah, that DeQuan Finn almost could not handle what was happening there from the fans being on top of him, how loud it was, that it was such a big game. And he had played at Toledo, but he had success, I think, playing at Notre Dame against the Michigan. And he was totally pedestrian. And for lack of a better term, he's a player, right? But he looked scared. And that was the end of his run at Baylor pretty much. And it was because of Utah, that defense, and just the overwhelming environment there.
Yeah, he was a really good group of 5 quarterback, but he was overmatched on that day. And you know, he was a little bit of a one-trick pony in that he was a really good running quarterback who struggled to throw the ball against teams that could really play and make windows tight. So I think Utah's defense that day made it really hard on him. But because they did, I think the Sawyer Robertson era got going, and that's been good for Baylor, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Couple more before I let you get out of here. I know you're a busy dude. Talk to me about Devin Dampier. That's the worst way to ask a question. I hate when I do that. Devin Dampier, right? Can you describe what he has done for the team this year and how he has put them in a position for postseason success?
Well, first and foremost, Devin Dampier is a great kid, and he's one of those guys, Pete, that people are drawn to. You know, he showed up along with his offensive coordinator, Jason Beck from New Mexico, and he was on campus, came in January for spring football, and they do, you know, they vote on kind of a leadership committee in the spring. They do one in the summer and then in the fall again. He'd only been on campus for 2 weeks, and his teammates voted him on the leadership committee. He's one of those guys that connected immediately. I say sometimes you've got guys that can walk in any room. You could be a quarterback. You can walk in the linebacker room. You can walk in the defensive end room, the tight end room, and the guys they're on board with you. And he's one of those guys. He's a terrific athlete and a dual threat guy. The issue with Devin this year is when he's been healthy, this offense hums. He got dinged up in the first half of the Texas Tech game, wasn't the same guy in the second half. Got dinged up a bit in the first half of the BYU game, wasn't the same guy in the second half. If they can keep him upright, and it's been just nothing really out of the ordinary. He protects himself, but he took some shots.
Yeah.
He knows this offense inside and out. He's run it for a couple of years with Jason Beck, and he's been fantastic. Teammates love him, and he's just got a great innate feel for the game. He's just what you would call a ball player. He just knows how to make winning plays.
Yeah, and I love how you touched earlier on Kyle Whittingham, and, you know, how BYU, you know, that's where he went to school, was an All-American, played for Lavelle Edwards, correct?
Yeah.
Like, how much of that process, right, playing for Lavelle, shines through him now, working at Utah, where he has become one of the premier coaches in college football?
I would tell you, I mean, clearly when you play for a Hall of Famer, that's going to have an impact on you. But Kyle grew up in a coaching. His father, Fred, was a lifetime coach. He coached in the NFL with the LA Rams for a decade. He coached at BYU. He was a coach at Utah.
I did not know that. He coached for the Rams. I didn't know that.
His dad was so really Kyle's taken from a lot of people. He coached with Urban Meyer here. He was Urban's defensive coordinator. He was one of the few leftovers from the prior coaching staff. Coached with Ron McBride. So he's pulled from all these guys. He's certainly his own man. But I would say the guy that's had the biggest coaching influence on him was his father, Fred, who was a phenomenal defensive coach at BYU, at Utah, and in the NFL.
How much more do you think Kyle Whittingham has left in the tank? Because as a fan, I don't want to see him go anywhere. And you hear stuff kicked around from time to time.
Well, I think he can coach as long as he wants to coach. I think he loves coaching, and he's got the program. This is 21 years for him. That doesn't happen very often. The only guy that's got longer tenure is Ferentz at Iowa. He's the second longest tenured coach in college football. He's got energy is not an issue. Love of the game is not an issue for Kyle Whittingham. I think as long as he can compete and feel like he can compete for conference championships, he's going to stick around and coach. People ask me, was this going to be the last year? I don't know. I don't think Kyle even knows at this point in time. I think he's at a point in his career where he's done everything. He's a cemented Hall of Famer as a player and a coach. Now it's just a matter of, how do I feel at the end of the season? Do I want to come back and coach again? Let me talk to my family and see where it is. But the love of the game and the love of coaching, that has not waned. He's still every bit as into it as he's always been.
Where are the expectation levels for the basketball team this year? I mean, Dawes is the only guy back, if I'm correct.
You're right.
You get a brand new staff. And almost, you know, I do go back to the BYU thing again, forgive me, but like the Kevin Young and that NBA kind of developmental identity that he produced at BYU, I think was alluring for a lot of recruits and really worked. And I got to say, Alex Jensen kind of is cut from the exact same cloth.
Yep.
And I would have to imagine that's going to be awfully enticing for recruits and transfers.
Yeah, it's a different situation between the schools because the programs were in different places a little bit. But you're absolutely right. When you talk to the kids that Alex brought into this program this year, every single one of them, because Pete, every kid that plays college basketball thinks they're going to play or wants to play on that next level. The fact that Alex coached in the NBA for 15 years, played professional basketball overseas, but coached in the NBA and in the G League for 15 years is a real selling point to this program and to these kids. It's going to be it's a rebuilding year. It's kind of an instill the culture, build what I want to build here. Alex has said, hey, I'm not looking to use this as a platform or a springboard to anything else. This is where I want to be. This is my school, my alma mater. So I'm going to build this thing the right way. So it's not, it's not, hey, this team's a Sweet 16 team this year or anything like that. It's a team that's going to play really hard and compete this year. And Alex and his staff are instilling that culture. And they're 3-0. They beat Holy Cross last night. It was their best effort so far, complete effort against a good Patriot League team. They've got a couple of really good scores. A kid by the name of Terrence Brown, who's a transfer from Fairleigh Dickinson, went for 36 against Weber, had 21 last night. Another scoring guard from Western Kentucky by the name of Don McHenry, who can really go. You mentioned Keanu Dawes. He's a double-double machine for them. And then they've got some talented freshmen, one an international kid they brought in from Finland and some others that are going to be nice players. So this is going to be a little bit of a slow build through the non-conference season, kind of getting everything ready. And then, when you hit Big 12 play, man, you better put your running shoes on because there's no jogging once you hit Big 12 play.
No, man, there's no place to hide. Watching Iowa State last night, I was like, good grief. Bill, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I so appreciate it. You're doing an amazing job. And, I hope I get a game in Utah this year. I can come say what's up to you.
Come say hi. Have me back on anytime. I love the chat. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks so much, Bill. Appreciate it, dude. There he goes, the voice of the Utes. One of my favorite play-by-play guys, not just in the Big 12, but in America. You guys know I'm a play-by-play nerd, and that's one of my favorite feeds to go on to when I am out, and about and not around a TV, and I'll put like a radio call on my phone on Sirius Radio. He does a hell of a job. So yeah, go ahead and I'm telling you, if you want to actually listen to John Morris, I can never get away from J-Mo. Because if you had to pick on Saturday between J-Mo and Bill Riley, we got to go with J-Mo. That's our guy. J-Mo basically got us started in all this. We love John Morris. All right, we love you. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be in Waco. 10:30 start time because we're taping inside the 12 in the morning. And yeah, thanks for dealing with me being on the road, and I'm going to thank you already. Thanks for donating to the Wounded Warriors Project. At the bottom of your screen, you see it. Support America's veterans, okay? That's one great way to do it. Any way you want to do it, go ahead and do it, but I would urge you on a day like today, any day you should be thinking about doing it, but on a day like today, it moved me to donate. So if I can do it, trust me, you can do it, all right? The Pete Sousa Show presented by Slovakics. Thanks to Scotty back at home base. Thanks to Visser down in Disneyland, hanging out with Mickey Mouse and probably headed back. I know he likes to go to Disneyland at least once or twice a week. So I'll touch base with him exactly and find out how that's going this week. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Show. Sports.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
Show. Sports Beat.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.